Black holes can be understood as the local, testable analog of what Defreeze cosmology proposes at the scale of the entire universe. A black hole functions as a localized system for information storage and processing, while the Big Freeze represents a global counterpart of the same phenomenon. In both cases, information is never destroyed. Rather, it is preserved globally, becomes temporarily inaccessible, redistributed across boundaries, and later partially or fully recoverable. The event horizon in black hole physics serves as an information accessibility boundary, a concept that translates cosmologically into horizons that define what regions of information can be accessed at different stages of the universe. In modern black hole physics, information is not lost but partitioned across different domains. Some is encoded on the event horizon, some resides in interior correlations, and some is eventually recovered through Hawking radiation. In the context of the Big Freeze, there is no single event horizon, but rather a network of cosmic horizons and vacuum infrared (IR) structures. Here, information is stored in vacuum entanglement, horizon-scale correlations, and ultra-long wavelength modes, effectively making the vacuum itself act as a distributed horizon. This perspective reframes the vacuum not as empty space, but as a vast information reservoir with encoded correlations spanning cosmic scales. The distinction between information that stays and information that passes becomes clearer when examining the mechanisms involved. In black holes, short-range, high-energy correlations fall inward, while long-range conserved quantities imprint themselves on the horizon. Over time, Hawking radiation reconstructs these correlations through entanglement, explaining why information appears lost initially, but becomes recoverable later, as described by the Page curve. Similarly, in Defreeze cosmology, during the Big Freeze, short-scale structures thermalize and lose accessibility, while long-range correlations persist within the vacuum. As the universe transitions into the defreeze phase, accessibility increases, and these correlations regain dynamical relevance. This framework aligns closely with modern developments in black hole unitarity, where concepts such as islands expand the definition of accessible information and entanglement wedges dynamically reconfigure without violating entropy bounds. Applied cosmologically, this suggests that information recovery at the universal scale does not require any fundamental loss or violation of physical laws, but rather a shift in how and where information is encoded and accessed across cosmic evolution. This is exactly the same logic as the defreeze mechanism. In this analogy between black hole physics and cosmology, the black hole corresponds to the broader cosmological framework, where the event horizon is paralleled by a cosmological or vacuum horizon that defines the limits of observable and interactive regions. The concept of page time, marking when information begins to emerge from a black hole, is analogous to a defreeze epoch in cosmology, where previously inaccessible information becomes available. At this stage, information islands appear, similar to how accessibility increases across the cosmological system, enabling interaction with previously hidden domains. Ultimately, just as radiation decodes information from a black hole, the vacuum reactivates information on a universal scale, suggesting a dynamic process of information recovery and redistribution across the cosmos. Information heredity through horizons reveals a deep structural similarity between black hole physics and cosmology. In both cases, what is fundamentally conserved is not classical signals, but global quantum information, the entanglement structure, and the topology of correlations. What changes, however, is where this information resides, which degrees of freedom are able to access it, and how it can be decoded. Information does not travel in a classical sense. It is continuously relocalized across different physical domains. Extending this idea to cosmology, a big crunch can be understood as a kind of cosmic black hole, where the entire universe enters a horizon-dominated regime. Information becomes maximally scrambled, and physical laws simplify through symmetry restoration. At the bounce, there is no true singularity or erasure, only a redistribution of information. This is essentially a cosmological realization of black hole complementarity. Information is never destroyed, only re-expressed in new configurations. This leads to a unifying perspective. Black holes demonstrate that information can be hidden without being destroyed, and Defreeze cosmology extends this principle to the entire universe. If horizons are understood not as one-way barriers, but as information interfaces, the parallel becomes striking. In quantum gravity, an event horizon partitions information. Some remains encoded on the horizon itself, in entanglement patterns, soft modes, and correlations, while some passes through and is later re-emitted. The same structure appears cosmologically, where the event horizon corresponds to the cosmic or big freeze horizon, Hawking radiation mirrors defreeze reactivation, and information scrambling during collapse aligns with bounce-induced scrambling. Page time finds its analog in the defreeze threshold, and horizon degrees of freedom correspond to a vacuum information reservoir. Together, these mappings suggest a unified framework in which information heredity operates seamlessly from black holes to the evolution of the entire cosmos. A black hole can be understood as a miniature defreeze process embedded within spacetime. The idea that some information stays and some passes becomes clearer when framed through modern physics. Information is not localized in a single place, but distributed across correlations. Part of it is encoded in boundary correlations at the horizon, while another part resides in bulk correlations within the interior or later radiation. Neither component alone contains the full picture. This mirrors the cosmological perspective, where information survives the big freeze within the vacuum, yet is not entirely accessible at once. What changes over time is not the total amount of information, but its accessibility. In this sense, a black hole does not determine what is lost. It only governs when and where information becomes accessible again. Extending this idea further, black holes can be viewed as information seeds across cosmic cycles. Within a defreeze and bounce cosmology, they act as high-density knots of information. During a cosmic freeze, black holes outlast most structures and concentrate correlations. As the universe contracts or undergoes a bounce, these structures dissolve, but the information they contain is redistributed into the global state. This suggests that black holes are not endpoints of physical processes, but carriers of cosmological memory, localized horizons within a universe that itself undergoes horizon-dominated phases. In this framework, black holes mirror, at small scales, the same dormancy and reactivation mechanisms that govern the universe as a whole. This perspective leads to a deeper conceptual shift. The universe can preserve all its information while still allowing its laws to change. What we perceive as the laws of physics are not necessarily fixed in an absolute sense, but can be emergent, shaped by underlying conditions such as symmetry breaking, vacuum structure, and active degrees of freedom. Information, understood as correlations, quantum states, and entanglement, remains conserved, even through extreme cosmic phases. Like data stored on a computer that can be interpreted differently under changing operating systems, or like a musical score played through different instruments, the same underlying information can manifest under different effective rules. During extreme cosmological events, such as the Big Freeze, Defreeze, Big Crunch, or Bounce, the universe enters regimes where its apparent laws may shift. Symmetries can be restored, constants may lose their conventional meaning, and vacuum states can reorganize. When the universe stabilizes again, it may settle into a new set of effective laws. This does not violate physics, because fundamental constraints, such as unitarity, causality, consistency, and stability, still apply. Not every possible configuration survives. Only those that maintain coherence and structure persist. In this sense, the universe behaves like a system that explores possibilities but retains only stable outcomes. Ultimately, this framework offers a compelling explanation for fine-tuning. The apparent precision of physical laws may not be unique, but rather the result of selection among many possible expressions of the same underlying information. Only certain configurations allow for structure, complexity, and long-term stability, and we exist within one such viable outcome. The profound implication is that the universe does not reset or forget. It continuously inherits and re-expresses information across cycles. Memory remains continuous, while the rules governing its expression can evolve. The universe, in this view, remembers everything it has ever been, even as it reshapes the laws through which that memory is realized.